Welcome to this class. In it, we will learn how to create relationships between our business objects. We will also learn about DDL and its purpose. I want to draw your attention to three particular business objects: alumno, student, professor, and Pessoa, person. In our relational model, when we create a professor or a student, we are automatically creating a person. Now it's time to create the relationships between our tables. Remember when I mentioned that creating a professor also means creating a person? So, the ID field of the professor object must be the same as the ID field of the person object. In other words, they have the same identification number. To do this, we click on the professor object, go to the Database tab, select the Relationships tab, and click Add. For the relationship type, we leave it as many to one. The relationship name will be Pessoa, which is the same name as the field in the database. In the Name for Relationship field, we use the plural form just to identify that it is a relationship. But you can use any name you prefer. The related object name will be Pessoa, person. The autocomplete column is nome, name, because we want to bring the person's name when referring to this relationship. We select the required and delegation options. The column from the referenced object is ID, which the system chose automatically. The column from the object in editing, professor, is ID since we don't have a nome column in the professor object. Remember that both columns in the objects will have the same value because they refer to the same person. The term professor is just a classification that this person has. Now, let's move on to our Oferta Cursos, course offerings, table. Here, we will create three relationships: curso, course, disciplina, subject, and professor. Again, the relationship names are the same as the object names in the singular form. Following the same process as before, we click on Relationships and then Add. First, let's create the curso, course, relationship. In the relationship name, we put curso in the singular form and cursos in the label, plural. The related object will be curso, course. The autocomplete column will be nome, name. The column in the referenced object will be ID. We mark the required option. We don't select delegation because, unlike the person object, we are not creating a course here. We are only receiving the course ID as a foreign key. The column in the object being edited, Oferta Cursos, will be curso ID. We verify the options chosen and click Save. Now let's create the disciplina, subject, relationship. The relationship name will be disciplina in the singular form, and in the label, we'll put disciplinas, subjects, in the plural. The related object will be disciplina, subject. The autocomplete column will be nome, name. The column from the referenced object will be ID. The column in the object being edited, Oferta Cursos, will be disciplina ID. We mark the required option. We verify the options chosen and click Save. Next, we'll create the professor relationship. For the relationship name, we put professor. In the label, we'll put professors, professors. The related object is professor. This time, notice that we don't have the nome column for the autocomplete option because the professor business object doesn't have the nome field. This is one of the reasons why later on, we'll create SQL queries to fetch the professor's name using the professor ID from the Pessoa, person, business object. We mark the required option. The column from the referenced object is ID. The column in the object being edited, Oferta Cursos, will be professor ID. We verify the options chosen and click Save. Remember to click Save at the end to ensure that everything has been saved. Now let's move on to the Histórico do Aluno, student's history, business object, which will have two relationships, one with the alumno, student, business object and another with the Oferta Curso, course offering, business object. Click on Relationships and then Add. For the relationship name, we put alumno in the singular form, and in the label, we put alumnos, students. The related object will be alumno, student. The autocomplete column will be ID. The column in the object being edited, Histórico do Aluno, will be alumno ID. We mark the required option. We verify the options chosen and click Save. Now let's create the other relationship. Click Add. For the relationship name, we put Oferta Cusso in the singular form. Note that we are using camel case, where the first letter of the next word is capitalized. In the label, we put Oferta de Cussos, course offerings. The related object will be Oferta Cusso, course offering. The autocomplete column will be Cusso ID. The column in the object being edited, Histórico do Aluno, will be Oferta Cusso ID. We mark the required option. We verify the options chosen and click Save. Check that the three relationships are created, and then click Save to save all the changes. The alumno, student, business object will have three relationships, one with the pessoa, person, business object, another with the alumno, student, business object itself, and the last one with the Histórico do Aluno, student's history, business object. For the pessoa relationship, the name will be pessoa in the singular form, and in the label, we put pessoas, people. The related object will be pessoa, person. The autocomplete column will be nome, name. The column from the referenced object will be ID. The column in the object being edited, alumno, will be ID. We mark the required option. We verify the options and click Save. Next, let's create the Cusso relationship. The relationship name will be Cusso in the singular form. The autocomplete column will be nome, name. The column from the referenced object will be ID. The column in the object being edited, alumno, will be Cusso ID. We mark the required option. We verify the options and click Save. Now, let's create the Histórico do Aluno relationship. This relationship has a particularity: it will be a one-to-many relationship because a student can have multiple records for different subjects and courses. The relationship name will be Histórico do Aluno in the singular form, and in the label, we put Históricos dos Alunos, students' histories. The related object will be Histórico do Aluno, students' history. In this type of relationship, there is no autocomplete column. The system already marks the option Update controlled by the parent object, and we leave it as it is. The column from the referenced object will be alumno ID. The column in the object being edited, alumno, will be ID. We verify the options and click Save. Check the three relationships created and now click Save to. Ensure everything is saved. Now that all our business objects are created and all relationships are established, it's time to execute the DDL's data definition language. DDL is a language used in databases to define the structure and characteristics of data. It is responsible for creating, modifying, or deleting objects in the database, such as tables, indexes, constraints, views, and more. It's crucial to only execute the DDLs when we have nothing else to do with our business objects, because, once executed, the objects are permanently stored in the database. Note that after creating the relationships, separate DDLs were generated. If I had already executed the main DDL before creating the relationships, I would have to execute each one of them individually now, and this could cause complications. Make sure to execute the DDLs only at the end, once you are absolutely sure of all the changes made. As an example, I intentionally left one item filled incorrectly to observe if the correction will generate a DDL to be executed. Remember that we created a domain to restrict or classify the type of document inserted in the Alumno business object? Now, let's fill in the item correctly and see if this change generates any DDL to be executed. Click on the Aluno business object, go to the Database tab, and edit the Documentos column to fill in the domain's name in the respective field. As we can see, this change did not generate any DDL to be executed. But the reminder is to execute the DDLs only at the end, once you are sure of everything that has been done.